All right. Welcome, everyone, to this week's support session. We're going to be talking about coping with ghosting and how it's not about you. This is the biggest thing I wanted to take away from here. And so, what we're talking about right now is writing in the chat if you've ever been ghosted. If you have ever had that moment where you've been dating someone for a little while and then they just completely leave you in the lurch. I want to know how it makes you feel. And also, welcome, Lisa. Hi there. I'm glad you found it. And I want to know, how did that make you feel to be ghosted? Because that's one of the really hard things that we're going to talk about, which is why it's such a big topic. And it's very painful, but I need you to know that it's not about you at all. But I thought it would be really fun for this week, in the spirit of Halloween, of course, um, to talk about this. I thought tonight would be the perfect time to talk about something that I know most of us have experienced, or like I was talking about before, I've definitely done to other people. It's when someone disappears out of nowhere, leaving you wondering what on earth happened. Yeah, Anita says, awful feeling. It's totally anxious. Yeah. I think I have a friend who has stopped talking to me, and it was a best friend. And yeah, that's what I'm saying. Best friends. I think you and Ashley both said this. This is part of this ghosting as well. We usually talk about it in terms of relationships, but friendships, it can happen all the time. But why does it happen? It's confusing, it's painful, it makes you question yourself. But the thing is, ghosting is more about them than it is about you. That's what I want to get across tonight. So, tonight we're going to dive into why ghosting happens, why it hurts so much, and how to cope by recognizing that it's not about you. I'm going to hit that home like 20 times a day. So, let's take the fear out of ghosting and talk about how to handle it. All right, let's go here. Let's talk about why ghosting hurts so much. So, first off, ghosting leaves us feeling totally rejected and confused. So, one minute you're connecting, everything seems perfectly fine. And then the next, poof, they disappear. This is why it's called ghosting, right? There's nothing there. It's like, what the heck just happened? Like, you're left trying to piece things together without any closure. I think the lack of closure might be one of the hardest parts of ghosting, to be honest. But it also brings up self doubt. You start thinking, what did I do wrong? Was it something I said? Something I did? And that uncertainty can mess with your mind, making you second guess yourself in ways that go way beyond just this one situation. And then there's the whole self worth thing. So when someone ghosts, it can feel like you weren't even worth an explanation. Like, how little must you matter for them to just not even communicate that to you? It's that lack of closure that can really stick with us, because there's no opportunity to ask questions, to figure out what went wrong, to understand anything. And this pain of that is part of that. And so ghosting taps into some of our deepest rejection wounds. But here's the thing, it's not about you. Ghosting is all about them and what they're going through and their struggles and all of this. And it's not about you. So why do people ghost though, right? Let's talk about this. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff out there. They're cowards and they're horseshit and the assholes. I mean, probably a lot of that is true. But as a human myself that has ghosted someone else, I can tell you right now it came from a lot of different reasons, okay? But people ghost for so many different reasons, and it usually comes down to their own issues, not yours. So for starters, there's the fear of confrontation. Anyone here just like hate confronting, like confrontation at all times, right? So a lot of people, they just can't handle the difficult conversations. So instead of being upfront about it and being able to communicate about it, what do? They vanish. It's like they're trying to avoid that completely uncomfortable feeling in the moment. So they don't even want to deal with it. And then there's the emotional immaturity. So ghosting is often a sign that the person doesn't have the emotional skills to communicate what's really going on inside of them. It's much easier for them to just avoid you than it is to deal with their own feelings. And now some people also have a lack of communication skills. So maybe they've never learned how to express their emotions or how to respectfully end things. And all the other times they've tried to do this, it's blown up in their face. It's made things completely worse. So to them, it's actually the kind thing to do in their minds in order to just disappear. And they think this is just going to be easier on you than just having to have this conversation. And then finally, there's just the concept of avoiding vulnerability. Some people ghost because they're just afraid of emotional intimacy. They're worried about being rejected themselves, so they run away before you can push them away first. You see how that works? So the key thing to remember though is this: ghosting is about their limitations, not your worth. Okay, I want to really drive that home. So there's no specific reason at all. Okay, it's just that they're going through their stuff. So how do we start coping with ghosting? We can understand it all. We can do all of this stuff. But how do we deal with this? Well, the key is to reframe the experience and shift your focus. So instead of getting stuck on the question, why didn't they respond? This happens all the time. Like, well, why didn't he text me back? Or why didn't she reach out to me again? And why haven't we gone out for drinks in so long? And you're replaying every interaction in your head, wondering what you did wrong, what you said wrong, all of these things where we put the blame on ourselves. Now, what I want us to do is I want us to shift this. Okay. I want you to ask yourself, instead of why are they doing this? Why are they doing that? And I want you to pull it back to yourself. I want you to ask yourself, is this what I want? Because the truth is, I don't care why they ghosted you. Like, I know it hurts. I get it. And I'm not trying to dismiss your feelings here, but honestly, who cares? At the end of the day, you have to ask yourself, do you want someone who disappears when things get rough? Do you want someone that just drops you and doesn't know how to communicate to you? I'm going to go with probably not. So instead of making it about what you did or didn't do and why they're doing this, and is it because they hate me, or is it because they love me too much, or is it because they have their own avoidant issues, or that's this attachment style for them? No, cut it out. We're coming back to us. Is this what you want? That's what I want you to keep asking yourself. No amount of analyzing why they ghosted you will give you the closure you need. But reframing the situation and asking, oh, if is this what I want in my life? Do I want someone that when I need to communicate something to them, they're like, oh, nope, I'm out of here? No, of course not. That's where the real power comes in. It's not about what you did. It's about asking, is this the kind of person I want to be giving my energy to? And that right there, ladies, is how we take our power back. So now that we've reframed ghosting, let's talk about how we can actually cope with it. Okay. So once you've been able to reframe it in your mind and you kind of realize, hey, this has nothing to do with me. This is everything to do with them. In fact, I'm really grateful. I'll tell you a story about a client I have who made this realization that she was grateful for it. It's amazing. But it's one of those things to say, don't take it personally, right? Like, hey, just don't take it personally. But it's another thing to really process through this. So first, I want you to focus on yourself. Start shifting your energy inward. Ghosting can make you feel like you're lacking something, like this is all your fault or you did something wrong. But this is the perfect time to focus on you, what you want, what you feel, and what you deserve. And then I want you to surround yourself with support. Getting ghosted, it does not feel good. You heard some of us talk about in the beginning, it feels uh, anxious and scared and frustrated and sad and angry. Don't go through this alone. I'm not asking you to reframe this completely so you have absolutely no feelings about this. What I'm asking you to do is not make it about you. And I don't want you to go through this alone. I want you to reach out to your friends. You can reach out to the community. You can talk to someone who lifts you up, and remind yourself that your value isn't determined by someone else's inability to communicate. And then I want you to create your own closure. So, just like we talked about earlier, closure doesn't always come from the other person. I know they're not there to ask you the questions. Oh, you know what? Why did our relationship not work out? What's going on here? But sometimes you just have to create that closure for yourself. Write down how you feel, what you want from your relationships moving forward, what you took out of this relationship, the good, the bad, the ugly, all of it. And you get to decide what their actions are doing and saying in your life moving forward, right? They don't have the final say, but everything in this relationship is telling you more about what you want in the future. And that's how you create your own closure. And then I want you to practice letting go, which, and trust me, is easier said than done at all times. I know. But letting go isn't about forgetting. It's not even necessarily about forgiving necessarily, right? It's just more about choosing not to carry the weight of someone else's actions in your heart. So remind yourself, ghosting isn't a reflection of your worth, but a reflection of their limitations. I also want you just to remember that you have the power to move forward in these situations, even when someone doesn't give you the respect you deserve or an explanation or that closure that you're looking for. You have the power to move forward. And I want us to remember that. So now, when I was thinking about this topic, I was thinking about a client of mine who went through an incredibly tough ghosting experience. She had actually, some in my experience, most ghosting I deal with, it's like when I ghosted someone, I don't know, we had like 2 dates. And honestly, yeah, he was kind of annoying and I didn't know how to handle that. And so I just like completely blocked him and I didn't want to deal with it. Right? It was a couple dates. And in my mind, I was like, not a big deal. She was dating someone for like 3 months. Things were actually getting pretty serious, and they even started talking about moving in together. Like, this was a big deal. Everything, like, she was just getting, as she says, love bombed, but, that's a whole different topic for a different day. But everything just seemed perfect for her in that moment until out of nowhere one day, she just ghosted her. No explanation, no warning, just complete silence. She tried texting him. There wasn't even a block. She would text him and there'd be nothing back. And it was really scary at first because it was almost like when she first came to me, I was like, well, let's not jump to conclusions. Like, is he okay? Right. That's where my first thought process went to. But no, we found him posting as if nothing had happened on his social media. And I remember like my gut hurt for her. He was clearly alive and well, but he had just totally dropped her without a word. And she was devastated, to say the least. And so for weeks, if not months, so definitely months, she was stuck in this cycle of self-doubt, constantly asking herself, what did she do wrong? Was she too much? Did she scare him off by talking about moving in? Why didn't he just tell her if he wasn't ready? She would have been totally fine to slow things down. And the more she talked about it, the more she realized he was the one that was talking about all of this stuff. So honestly, all of this is a big deal. But even if I hadn't dealt with that kind of situation before, and I was at hold on, my thought process just got jumbled there. What I'm trying to say is I hadn't dealt with it this severely before. So, in order to support her best I could, I started diving headfirst into what actually is ghosting, right? What's the research behind ghosting, what's going on? And then this is where we found out that all of the ghosting people out there, it's all coming from their own inability to communicate their own fears, their own fear vulnerability. Ghosting has less to do with the person being ghosted and everything to do with the person doing the ghosting. So it's about emotional avoidance, fear, vulnerability, and sometimes usually just, immaturity. So once we talked through this, though, once her and I started to really shift through this, we started to work through her limited beliefs. We started to figure out where it was that she needed to even herself be communicating better. She started to shift her mindset. And instead of focusing on why he ghosted her, she began asking herself, is this the type of person I want to be with? Do I want someone who can't even communicate when things get tough? And she even started seeing this as a gift. That was my favorite part of this entire thing when we got to the moment in one of our sessions when she saw this as a gift and she said, Jen, what if this had happened like a year into our relationship? What if this had, I'm so grateful he did this only 3 months in so I could get out as quickly as possible. I'm so grateful he showed me exactly who he is. And that simple shift was huge. And that's what I want to get you to see. If you're out there and you've ever been ghosted, whenever you're ready for this, don't do it too soon because, no toxic positivity or anything like that. But this is a gift. He showed you exactly who he was. And that was not the right person for you. So gradually, my client, she just began focusing back on herself. She found her own happiness. She started dating again, and she finally found the relationship that she deserved, because seeing the shift in her was just incredible, and seeing what she could do with this post traumatic growth, essentially, right? When we can take these terrible things that happen to us and grow from them is when we can truly empower ourselves. So, as we're wrapping up for tonight's session, I just want us to remember that yes, ghosting is incredibly painful. It leaves us feeling rejected and confused, but it's important to understand that ghosting is not about you. It's about their own issues, their own limitations, not your worth. Okay. And then we also learned how to reframe the situation. So instead of wondering what you did wrong or why they ghosted you and all these things going on in your mind, or what did I say, or did I text the wrong thing? Was I not funny enough? I just instead want you to just whoop, kind of stop yourself, hold your horses, and ask yourself, is this what you want? Is this the kind of relationship you want? Is this the type of partner you want? Is this the type of friend that you want? Do I want someone who disappears when things get hard? See, when we shift the focus back to what we deserve, we take our power back. And then we're able to take care of ourselves. We get to use this as an opportunity to focus inward, surrounding ourselves with support. And then that means we get to create our own closure. We are all deserving of love, respect, and communication. And ghosting doesn't define your worth. You have the power to choose what you want in your relationships. And so, as we wrap up tonight, these are in the journal prompts as well, which I can also put again because I think I saw a couple new faces pop in. Hello, everyone. Just a couple questions to get you thinking as we wrap up, which is just what emotions come up for you when you think about being ghosted? Right, we did a little bit that in the beginning, but is there any sort of fear or sadness or pain that's coming up for you? And then how has ghosting affected the way you see yourself or your relationships? So when you had that friend who just stopped talking to you and completely ghosted you, how is it affecting the way you see yourself? Do you think you're a bad friend now? Do you think you did something wrong? What's going on there for you? And then how can you begin to shift your mindsets and see ghosting as a reflection of the other person's behavior and not your value? We can talk about some of these right now. But for right now, that is our learning lesson for this week's support session. So we have about 30 so minutes to go. And the next part of this session is going to be all for you. So you can ask me any questions that you want about what we've talked about today. You can also ask me any questions that have nothing to do with today. This is an open Q&A. And if I get no questions, I will bring in some that I got from before